Hi, Tommy. I hope you are well. The life put us together on the seminars recently. I remember watching your first videos, and I thought, wow, that's completely not something I'm interested in it. World War II combatives is not my thing. The some self-defense is kind of not my thing, but life wanted differently. And I have to say, I changed my mind, and I really like your content and your teachings. So, how are you, my friend?
I'm very, very well. I'm glad you enjoy them. I think you know that's always the first thing to get over, isn't it? In martial arts, bias. Oh, I enjoy the karate stuff, or the kung fu stuff, or the combative stuff. It's all the same stuff, isn't it? Same stuff, different uniform,
Yeah,
different.
definitely. And
But
I keep catching myself. I'm judgmental as fuck, and yeah, all the time, the first impression is like, well, what have you been thinking? You just give it a bit of a thought, but I think we all are like that a bit, don't you think?
yeah, absolutely. We are all judgmental because at the end of the day, if you do this and you've done it for a long while, then you've got a right to be a little bit judgmental. Your gut feeling is often a good feeling, a correct feeling. But obviously, especially when it comes to online, it's important to give things a little bit of extra time to see what's what. You must be the same. You make content. The amount of people that must have made comments, and if they just watched the video 20 seconds longer, they could have had it answered for them and shut up. It's just those the little extra miles, isn't it, that makes the big difference. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
we can all afford to be a bit more patient with each other online than we perhaps are.
Definitely, definitely. Um, As probably on every podcast, every interview, you are asked about who are you, what you do, how did you start. So I would like you to do a telegraphic shortcut, so
All
short
right.
content and just a little bit about you.
All right, cool. So my name's Tommy Joe Moore. I'm from Birmingham, which is in the middle of the UK for people watching this abroad. My first martial art was boxing, and I've done that since I was 5, and I've continued to do that throughout my entire life. My second martial art was judo, which I got to the dizzying heights of knee down in, and then soon as my knees and back gave up bending, so stopped doing. But I've also done that for a large part of my life. And then along the way, I've picked up lots and lots of different arts from people some people might be familiar with, such as Thai boxing with Eddie Quinn. Eddie Quinn, Bob Spur, and Ben Bates were some of my early Thai boxing instructors. Did that and competed in that for many years. Jeet Kune Do with Nigel Trotman, and lots of different things from all different countries. Japanese arts, Western arts, Filipino arts. I'm a big addict of this stuff, a lifelong addict. As many people listening to this probably will be. You can be addicted to lots of the arts, you could be addicted to one, but it's all the same drug when it comes to the end of it. We all love this fighting stuff.
You've done a very broad spectrum of martial arts. It was just the curiosity of different things, or it just life? Because I done a lot of things, and it was due to my first instructor and the longest instructor, who always encouraged us to go and try this. There's a club here. We go on seminar with these guys. So I done a lot of stuff as well, including boxing, jiu-jitsu, BJJ, and all sort of different things. But was it just a coincidence, or did you purposefully chosen the arts you're gonna go and learn because I'm lacking in this area or something like that?
I would like to pretend I had some big, meaningful project plan of, I have weaknesses in short edged weapons or long, blunt weapons, so therefore I'll seek out this instructor. To be honest, life moves you around. Life moves you around the country, moves you to different places, and in those different places are different instructors. And if you're a wise consumer of martial arts, when you go to a new place, wherever that is, you'll look at what's around you. And whilst you might not have done that thing before, that might be the best thing available, the most interesting thing available. Now I tend to plug gaps more. So if there's a thing I think with martial arts, to kind of sidetrack it, you find yourself a bit, some things are on a maintenance cycle, that
Hmm.
you just keep topping it up and it's okay, it's okay. And some things you need to put concerted effort into. So, for example, you might say, I've not done any ground grappling in X number of years. I should probably put a bit of extra focus on that, or I haven't done knives in X number of years. I better put some focus on knife defense or whatever. So I think as you go through life, you decide what needs to be in a maintenance cycle and what needs to be in a focus area, and that matches your whims at the time as well, what you find interesting. The great thing about new stuff is that you put a lot of passion and energy into it.
Mm.
You humans are like dogs. We love to chase cars. So, as much as it's great to be steady in one particular platform, and for me that's boxing, it's also really exciting to be a bit of a magpie and chase interesting things. Because of every interesting thing, you only ever really take away
Mm.
5 things or fewer that are useful. Everything else is just decoration, isn't it? You go there and you grab the things you like and you take them away to your little nest of martial arts techniques and strategies. Just like seminars, you'll go of the 10 drills that you might do that day, 2 you're like, oh, come with me, and you can come with me too. So I think we're all a bit like it in the end.
Yeah. I don't know if just me, but I see actually a few people as well. You try something new and then you get a bit over enthusiastic, so you just try to focus on that new thing oh, that's gonna be my new thing. But for me it was like that, we tried MMA, we tried kickboxing and stuff like that, but it always kind of bring me to the core. The karate is the core. Karate is in my heart, so it always kind of loops me. Although I have a 5 year distractions with something, then I always come back to karate. What was
Mhm.
the martial arts for you that you always come back?
It's always been boxing and previously judo. So the things I
Mm.
started with have been the lifelong constants because they're gritty, they're authentic, they're everywhere. You can go to every small towns on the Isle of Skye, in Orkney, on the Isle of Man. Anywhere you go in this world, you will find a boxing club, a judo club somewhere, which is
Mm.
great. Which means they can travel with you for life, and there's always competitions, there's always good sparring. There's always good stuff around. And because you can't really be a rubbish boxing gym, you can be
Mm.
a slightly bad kung fu school, you can be a kind of rubbish karate school. Boxing gyms, unless people are winning or doing well, they don't tend to stay alive very long. So the quality assurance tends to be relatively good,
Mhm.
and that then suits me. So those have been my lifelong kind of passions and martial arts loves, but I love all of it. I really try hard not to think in terms of styles. So, if people are watching this familiar with me, they'll see me pop up at a karate seminar, then at a Krav Maga seminar, then they'll see me fight in a boxing competition, and then they might see me do a fencing seminar. All of it I love, and,
Mm.
and all of it adds something to you. And I think historically, if we look at every single historical master, it's what they've all done. Every
Yeah.
single one of them has tried new things, engaged with other people, stolen stuff, played with stuff, and also had things match their moods. The karate of a 30-year-old man is different to the karate of a 50-year-old man, which is different to the karate of a 70-year-old man. So you can see, how arts change with the people too. And depending on what stage in that sensei's life you train with them, the karate they give you will be very different. The same in every club. A young boxing coach teaches you differently to an old boxing coach.
Mm.
That's it's a very so it's not just styles, it's times as well. I think that's one thing people neglect: time and context of when you're being taught this stuff by
Ex-
by someone.
Definitely. I think that karate. I wish that karate would be more like boxing. That you've got that level of quality. You're going to the gym whenever you want. And like you said, you're doing boxing, and it's kind of similar level. There are
Yeah.
deviations as with everything, but in karate there are huge ones. There's no one kind of middle level that whichever school you're gonna go because it's so many branches of it. It just it's a bit disheartening sometimes that you go to the club and it's completely different what you've been doing, but you know that's the way it is, and sometimes we're getting a bit low seeing people doing this and that, but until people enjoying it, I think that's okay. If there's no harm done, it's
Mhm.
enjoying it, and they've got so much benefits. Just physical activity has got so much benefits for us that it's worth it. Which brings me to the question about mental health. Do you think that a boxing, other martial arts you done helped you mentally with your mental health? Did you have any kind of impact on it?
I have to say, and fingers crossed and touch wood, I've always been pretty robust when it comes to my physical and my mental health. So, it would be bad of me to say it's helped. It might have prevented things from happening, but in terms of, I don't tend to, as yet, suffer from any kind of big mental health challenges. I've always been relatively confident and relatively healthy and relatively happy, and that's
Hmm.
that's good. That's a good thing. But what I would say is that I see how much and I'll use the boxing gym I go to now in Madrimore as an example. Every day in that there'll be everything from moms that have just had kids and they're feeling pretty low and they want to feel fit and strong and confident again. There's a couple of lads in there that have got Down syndrome that have struggled to access other sports. And it's the boxing gym that allows them to go there and spar and hit bags and be with other people and not over baby them. They're all men. These guys, they've got Down syndrome, but they still want to punch stuff and they still want to do all the boxing stuff. And it's at that place that they can turn up and just be, Dave or Tom. They can
Mm.
just be them, not a label, not a thing per se. They're just themselves. And I see all different levels of mental health. There's lots of young people that have had challenging things happen in their life. There's a young lad which I do a bit of sparring with, who's recently lost his mother, and he it affected him so much he went mute. He couldn't speak for 3 months. He couldn't say a word. But he still turned up to boxing. So I see an entire spectrum of the mental health makeup of the country come through those doors, and it pleases me to say that everybody leaves looking and feeling a little bit happier than when they went in. So whilst I can't give a big mental health story for me, what I can say is that I see it. And another thing, a lot of people watching this might know that I used to be a school teacher. And I used to teach in what's known as a pupil referral unit. So if you got kicked out or expelled from school, if you're a kid that's in a gang, if you're dealing drugs from disadvantaged backgrounds, all of those things, they would come to the Peru schools. And I used to take the time to teach them self-defense and boxing and martial arts. And a lot of the other teachers were like, these are violent kids. Why are you making them better at being more violent? I'm like, no, I'm making them better at understanding their own bodies, their own fitness, their own putting dedication into something. They couldn't do a jab last week. Now they can do a jab without falling over.
Mm.
That doesn't seem amazing to us, but to them, that's amazing. And so I've seen the transformative effects on people's mental and social health firsthand in that school system.
Yeah, I love that because I'm working a lot with people with different mental health issues plus physical disabilities, and it always makes my heart grow when I see them coming in kind of sad and in a bad mood and coming out with a big smiles because they smashed the pads a little bit and kicked maybe not correctly, but they actually make the contact and stuff like that. And the other side of it is, it always makes me laugh. Had a comment yesterday on one of my students who's beginner. I have some problems with mobility and doing mawashigeri because we've been recording stuff and people going, oh, killing themselves over online how badly he kicks. Who cares? He's enjoying it. He's going home happy. I'm happy that he's there. We're all happy and he's doing something. So who cares? It's positive for him. But you are also known for a Bartitsu and
Mhm.
reconstructions of it. And I was thinking if you could tell us how to do things like that, because I think karate is doing a reconstructions all the time of the infamous bunkais, banana bunkais as you call it, because we don't know what was the originally the form was for, so we're trying to pick and cherry pick, techniques that might work for us, which is in a way great because we see such a big variety of applications suited for other people. But to rebuild whole art, it is a bit of a task. Can you shed some light on how did you get on with it and how did you start it?
Okay, so there's something called HEMA, HEMA, which is Historical European
Hmm.
Martial Art. That's where people take manuals and guides from the time, say medieval longsword or Polish saber fencing, and they take them. They're typically well illustrated and well explained, and they try and bring them back to life via looking at the guides and the context and the first-hand sources, and reconstructive fighting archaeology, essentially doing it, sparring, fighting, testing it, optimizing it, see what's working and what's not. And so there's a kind of a pattern to bringing things back to life, which HEMA is very good at because it's been doing it a long time. There's a good amount, there's a good balance between martial testing, pressure testing it always, and HEMA does that very well, nearly all the time.
Seeing them fighting is just mind blowing. They
Yeah,
don't hold back.
yeah.
Those
You know,
motherfuckers don't hold back.
if you compare it to say Yado or Kenjutsu or how Japanese systems that do have living lineages, you can see that the HEMA guys do a lot more fighting. They
Mm.
do a lot more. I think if you were to take a samurai from the past and show him a HEMA club and a modern day Yedo club, he would have a lot more understanding of what's happening at the HEMA
Yeah.
club. Like, I understand this. What the fuck is that guy doing sat on the floor? You know, and so with Bartitsu, I love history. I love bringing back history for people. It's a big passion of mine. I love martial arts and martial history. And with Bartitsu, I was good at most of the arts that make that up anyway. So in terms of boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, savat, which is a French kickboxing system, and using weapons. So all the ingredients I'm good at already. And there's lots and lots of first-hand sources. There's lots of imagery, not just of Bartitsu. There's not a huge amount on Bartitsu, but what we call the antagonistic. So we got lots of books on how people boxed, how people used cane fighting, how people did savat, how people wrestled. Hundreds, I mean, nearly about 1,000. If you took a small window of, say, 1870 to 1910, which would be a good window, you're probably looking about 1,500 very well written, well illustrated, well defined guides on how to do all the things, which the Japanese just do not have. They did not have access to that amount of photography. And the Asian culture is very secretive, very closed door. The Western is very open. So the Western guides will show you how to throw and wrestle and strangle, how to use a stick, how to fight with savat. The Japanese system is all about, getting your menkyo, isn't it? Getting your license to
Mm-hmm.
teach. It's all closed door. Because Western arts are so open door, we've got thousands more sources to draw from and play with. And as you move into my other passion, the World War II combatives, not only have we got all that stuff, all that imagery and all that write up and all those books, we've also got film footage, really good long film footage. Again, thousands of hours of film footage of the guys doing it. Again, if you look at Japanese arts or even things like jiu-jitsu, there's little snippets,
Mm.
but compared to things like if you look at William Fairburn's teaching, you can get about 5 hours of him teaching stuff on film that you can do and watch and go through. I'd also say that it's a little bit of a cheat because both of them, Bartitsu and the World War II combatives, are redacted curriculums. Bartitsu is for self-defense, so the curriculum is relatively small. World War II combatives taught over, say, 6 periods of 45 minutes, relatively small. So it doesn't have the fluff. It doesn't have the kata and the bunkai and the spiritual aspects and all that stuff. So it's easier to bring that back to life because it's already a slimmer product. It's already a tighter product than can you imagine trying to bring back, say, an old kung fu system that's got 30 forms and a spear form and a sword form and a saber form and all that. It'd be nearly impossible. It's too much data.
Mm.
Whereas Bartitsu and World War combatives, they are functional enough to bring back to life, and we've got more than enough sources to do that well. The Japanese arts will never have that because that's not part of the culture. They didn't have the technology really that much, and the culture wasn't so much for writing things down and transmitting them very openly. Even the books that were made are more about getting you to join a club as opposed to teaching you stuff.
Mm. I suppose the era of internet helped the researchers much easier. Now you've got access to all the libraries around the world if you want to, and you can
Yeah.
find those historical materials which 20, 30 years ago you would have to travel. And I remember from karate, in Poland in 80s, 90s and 2000s, we didn't have money, there was no internet, so you had all reprints and scans
Yeah.
of the book written on the typewriter, who was just copied from somebody, had they been fortunate to have a book from the United States or something like that. So you've been talking, you just took my question about World War II. You already answered it. That's make me my job easier. Um, but recently you shared a thought about the self-defense and boxing, which is actually kind of my alley. That I'm not that into the self-defense, but I like combat sports, and I think the combat sports, the way we practice combat sports, it translates much easier to stand up or self-defense fighting on the street. And I had a few incidents in Poland when my karate just worked for me, but because it was a sporting under pressure exercise. And I think some people taking the self-defense classes, but they all you can hurt people, they don't use contact that much, and they believe that they are able to defend themselves without that pressure testing and not really knowing how it feels to stand off face to face with the opponent who actually wants to take your head off, either in a karate, full contact competition, or boxing, judo, or whatever. You've got that sense of other person just wants to kill you, not
Yeah.
literally, but he wants to hurt you because he wants to win. Could you kind of explain your thought about it?
Yeah, so the point I was making was about drills and how it's very common now for people to talk a lot about soft skills. And what we mean by that is dialogue and communication and talking people down and replicating all manner of scenarios. And my point was that much of those are, I in my opinion, they offer very little value because most of the time there is no real fear. Violence is about fear. And if you're doing it with people from your club, no matter how much you play act, you still know that it's Barry and Tony and Tina playing the role of these thugs. And I'll tell you for why that these things don't work. Is that if you're a reasonable person that trains in a reasonably nice place, which is most of the world, Barry and Tina and Sarah have not ever mugged people for a living,
Mm,
have not made a career of breaking into houses and raping people and cutting them open. They have no experience of that. So even when they play act it, they're play acting it from no experience whatsoever. They are doing their best TV movie version of what they think a bad guy is and does. So therefore, you're getting an inauthentic person, an inauthentic experience delivered in an inauthentic. And it's not like teachers instruct pupils on how to be better method actors, do they? You know,
mm.
they're not giving acting classes. How could you be more thug like Tony next time? So
Yeah, that's that,
you're play
that.
acting people
Yeah,
that don't know what they're doing.
that's the problem in my club. Sometimes we play the buddies, and 90% of us feel uncomfortable and don't simply know how to do. Even swearing at people comes really
Yeah.
hard.
And even like I think online it looks realistic. Everyone looks macho, like you fucking fuck you. It can look really macho, but psychologically there's no fear. And
Mm,
I'd say this: the reason why combat sports are preeminent for me in my mind in keeping you safe physically is because pain exists. If I don't slip my head, guess who comes? Sensei Pain. Bang! You know, if I don't grip correctly, who's coming to strip me on the ground? It's good old Sensei Pain. Bang! That pain makes me second guess myself, makes me doubt, makes me fear, makes me afraid. Even if your drills look violent and you wear all the headgear and padding, yeah, there's typically always a script, the good guy and the bad guy. And the
mhm,
bad guy is obliged to lose most of the time. In most clubs, there is already so even if you still hit each other and say, we don't spar, but we do hit each other in a more realistic way, that's fine. But the script dictates who wins and who loses. Eventually, like I'm playing a bad guy and a small person is playing the good guy. Eventually, I'll go down on one knee because I'm
mm.
being nice. You know, I'm not going to stay there and be like, your punches to me are like farts from a gnat. I'm not going, you couldn't hit me that hard that I'm going, you have to suspend disbelief for it. And so, what I think is important with combat sports is, especially if you compete, sparring is good, competing is better
Mm.
because then it's that people really want it. Sparring is great. Heavy sparring is great. Competition adds that extra fear, extra doubt, extra worry. And I don't think people need to do it all the time, but you should at least have done it a couple of times so you get a taste for that fear and that doubt and that worry. And sensei pain will come knocking every time you fail.
Mm.
You know, I just came, my boxing instructor, I was at one of his fights this weekend. He lost. Does it matter? No, because he went to Sensei Payne's school.
Mm.
It's going to make him better. He went to a 12-round decision. The things that he knows he should have done better. So he'll go away and he'll be pissed off and he'll be angry about that and he'll train harder. And that's good. We all need to go see Sensei Payne at some point. And that's what combat sport, in a combat sport, Sensei Payne's door is always open and he's always willing to teach.
Yeah, I think that people as well fall in that trap. What you said that the one needs to win, and always the bad guy has loses, and they always bring to my mind the seminar actually we've been in together, and on the Bunkai Bash, and we've been training together, and Bob got us that arm bar, which I'm much taller than you, so it wouldn't work at all. So for those who haven't seen us, I've been hanging on Tommy's hand and trying to do armbar with my 65 kilos, and he just standing laughing at me. So we both concluded that let's skip this one because it's never gonna work for me. And I think people forget that not everything we learn is for you. As a teachers, we need to show the broad stuff for all the types of people, but you have to cherry pick what works for you. Me being 170 centimeters tall, so just a bit taller than mushroom. I can't I can't do and go for techniques that in, incorporate use of body mass and leverage because I'm just not built like that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Self-awareness really matters. You need to be self-aware to understand what techniques work for you. And you also need to be aware of people's morphology, their bodies and their temperament. When you're an instructor, when you're a teacher, you can teach everybody everything as an academic exercise. Say like, John, you're 6'7", you're never going to do this technique, but I will teach you because it's on the curriculum. That's cool. I'm just going to show you. Like that is perfectly fine because some people just love collecting interesting techniques, whether they would use them or not. If you're teaching with a self-protection aspect or element, it's there you have to turn your honesty dial up and say, look, you are 7 stone wringing wet. Like some techniques are not going to work for you, others might. And here in my
Mm,
recommendation as your instructor are the ones that might, but you need to try them and you need to trust them. It's my job to shortlist. It's your job to select. I can shortlist and say
mm,
this batch of techniques, that throw instead of this throw is better for you, but you need to go try it and test it, and you report back to me. You tell me how well it went. That experimental aspect, and I think that is lost in a lot of traditional systems. People tend to. I find Asian systems, one of their biggest endemic problems is over teaching.
mm,
You can go to a boxing club or a judo club and do a really bad jab and a really bad osotogari, but they're not going to come up to you every 10 seconds and go, "Oh, move your foot here, oh, move your shoulder here, oh, just do." A boxing coach might not speak to you for 3 months, and
mm,
he'll walk past you and say, "Put your elbow in." Then he might not speak to you again for another 6 weeks, and he'll say, "Drop your chin." Because there's more respect for how people really learn. I think a
mm,
lot of Asian martial arts club, you'll get Johnny White Belt come in and they'll be like, that foot should be 45 degrees and that should be here and this should be here and you should look to the west. And, I think it just is part of the culture.
mm,
Japanese is a very perfectionist culture. Asian martial cultures are very perfectionist, but I don't think it really matches how people legitimately learn. If you look at how we teach people and educate people in the West, on the first day of school, you're not taught reading, writing, grammar, alphabet, clauses, sentences, Oxford comma. You're not taught all those things in one go. It's over time. And I think that's what really matters. How we go about teaching people should be
mm,
very personal and we shouldn't overteach if we can help it.
for sure. Tommy, you are also an author. How did you get
Yes.
into writing? Is that was by accident or did you plan it?
So, so part of my job, so part of my normal boring day job, I work in advertising. I make TV adverts and social media. That's what I do for big companies. And I thought one day, I really enjoy martial arts books and literature. Got thousands of books on everything you could possibly imagine. And what I like about a book is that how many of us in martial arts have subscribed to apps and video libraries and platforms, gone on it 1,000 times, and then completely forgotten it. Probably
Mm,
paid for it several months after the last time we ever looked at it. They will die. One day you will die. You won't refresh that website. It will be gone. Every trace of it will be gone.
mm,
We've still got books knocking around now from the 1700s, 1800s because they're physical, because they matter. So I made my books like I've got them here: Shanghai School of Street Fighting, modern Bartitsu. I've got my books here, and I know that they're physical. They're in people's lives right now. They're in bookshelves and in drawers. They've got coffee cups on them. They're slightly bent under pads in someone's dojo, and that's really important. I wanted to make, if I'm bringing back things to life, such as World War II combatives and Bartitsu, the original founders of those things believed it was important to record them. But what I've done is I've done it with full color photography. Today
mhm,
we can print a lot more. It's a lot cheaper to print, so I can put more detail and context. I can add things now as an author that they could have only ever dreamed of because of the things that they had available to them. It's on print on demand. So if you're in Timbuktu or God knows where, Swindon, You can download it and have it. You can have it physically. You can have it
Yeah.
virtually. And so for me, making books that get people inspired to do stuff really mattered. And I wanted a book with physicality, with techniques. There are so many books now on communication and soft skills and martial arts and the law. The books that I loved, the ones that inspired me to get off my ass and go to places, were the ones with a load of pictures that were really cool that me and my mates could go, let's try that. Let's
Mm.
try that. Look, that's what, especially young people, that's what they want. They don't want to be lectured to. They're like, here's some cool techniques. Here's how to apply them. Go play, go explore. And that's the foundation of my books and my writing style, really. They're designed as things that in the first 2 or 3 pages, you've got stuff to play with. And I'm very honest, I'm like, look, you do need to go train. You need to work with other people. You can't, a book will never replace an instructor because a book will never
Mm.
introduce you to Sensei pain. But, with my book, Modern Bartitsu, anyone around the world that's got a bit of martial skill can start a Bartitsu club and try it and experiment for themselves. If you've got a slight interest in history, whether you're just doing it for VE day with your kids in your karate or jiu-jitsu clubs, you've got the curriculum for World War II combatives that you can play with. And that's important for me. It's got to be experimental and playful. And that's what drove me to make these books. I've got my third book coming out, and this third book isn't historical. This is my take. This is my take on boxing as a martial tool. How could you take stuff from boxing and use it for self-protection? How could a karateka or jiu-jitsuka, a kung fu person, take a bit of what's good in boxing and put it into their stuff? Or if you're interested in Krav Maga or self-defense, how do I take some of the best bits of boxing and put it into that? It's not the whole answer, but it's got enough answers. And so
Mm.
it's stuff to inspire and engage people to try it. All of my books are designed for one thing, to make you get off your backside and go try it physically. And that's what they're designed to do.
I have to say that the new book got amazing colorful pictures. It just draws your attention instantly. I love how you put your boxing shoes, tracksuit, and a jacket, and it just looks really nice. Draws attention. I'm sure it's gonna be super successful. Tell me, what's your seminars in the future? Because you are super busy every
Yeah,
weekend somewhere.
everywhere. I mean, to be honest, there's no point me listening. The best thing people can do is go on my Facebook, add me on Facebook. My Facebook's wide open. So if you're a Russian hacker, go join in, have fun. It's completely open. So just go there and have a look. I will always, one thing I'll always do if people book me on a seminar, I'll always do my best to get as many people as I can there. I'll always try and promo it and talk to people about it and post images. So my role in being a traveling instructor, I take very seriously. I even if 3 people and a donkey turn up, you'll still get the same passion from me as 40, 50 people. I've made my own seminars where hardly anyone's come up, and I've made seminars where I've had to turn people away that have turned up on the day.
Mm.
There's no room. And people will always get the most passionate version of me, no matter what the size or what the group or whatever's going on. The best place for me, people to find out what I'm doing is Facebook, to be honest, and the YouTube channel. I'll always promote in there. And sometimes people are very spontaneous and say, Tommy, like I've had an instructor drop out next week. Could you do something?
Mm.
And I'll do my best because I love it. I love teaching a seminar and I love teaching experienced martial artists or people that do their own thing, because then I know that they might take a couple of my drills and bring it into what they do. It's harder to, I have a big respect for people that teach really raw beginners because that is a skill unto itself. My skill really is about taking people that already do martial arts and give them some new stuff. I'm good at and I like different drills and approaches and things like that. But it is a big skill to take a bunch of people that don't know their elbow from their arsehole and get them to stand up without falling over. So I appreciate people that do that. I tend to not do it because it doesn't suit my lifestyle and what I'm into right now. But I do appreciate that it's a lot of effort to be a long-term fixed place martial arts instructor. It requires a lot more of your soul than rocking up and be like, here's some cool stuff. Let's try it, guys.
Yeah. Tommy, it was a pleasure have you on our podcast.
Not a
We're doing
problem at all.
seminar soon together. I'm looking forward to do that and looking forward to getting your book. And I highly recommend, guys, you grab Tommy's book or visit seminars because his sense of humor and way of teaching is amazing. And as being an instructor along him, it's always very difficult to do something better than he does. Thank you, Tommy,
Not
for
at
your
all.
time.
Cheers, buddy. And make sure you go to Les's stuff, look at his content, subscribe to his YouTube. He's very polite and won't promo himself. So get your ass onto his YouTube, subscribe, go on his Facebook, do his stuff because the ginger beardy Eggman has told you to do it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.